Hello, everyone. My name is Nate Cap, and welcome to my first episode of Outcasting, where I'll be sharing bits of science towards freedom. And I'm going to try to keep these shows relatively short. And what I'm hoping to accomplish with these episodes is to help others come to a better understanding of some really difficult points that I've come to know and understand and question regarding reality and life. Now, I want to explain the subtitle and what I mean by bits of science, and I think it's really important that we define the word science and where it comes from before we go any further. So, what is science? Is it just some, social experiment? Well, the role of science as a methodology or a tool is to help us humans better understand ourselves and our world and the universe and ultimately our relationship to it. Okay? So the definition of science that I think represents science the best states that science is what is known. It's knowledge. Knowledge of something. It's knowledge acquired by study. It's information. Okay? Science is a systematic enterprise that builds and organizes knowledge in the form of testable, logical explanations and predictions about the universe. Okay? Now, to understand this word science better, we have to look into the etymology of science. Where is it derived from? So the word science comes from the Latin scientia, which means having knowledge, to know. Okay? And to even further our understanding of science, I think it's also very important that we look into what most people believe science means, what it means to them, okay? And I would say, from my experience, many people think science solely or is limited to laboratories or guys who wear white lab coats who have credentials and degrees and have lots of money and they're really famous and who are the only ones who can come up with, most of the solutions for the world, and basically believe that scientists are the only authority of science itself. Okay? And I know many people believe science is only something that you can learn because you went to school to be a scientist who knows science. And of course there's a little truth to that, because if you go to school to be a scientist, you'll have to know lots of what? You'll have to know lots of knowledge, and you'll have to know a lot of knowledge in order to understand what it is that you're looking into or what field of study that you're trying to understand. Okay? But people confuse scientists, the actual people, with science itself. But science is something that anybody can know because it's all about knowledge. It's about having knowledge. And anyone can have knowledge in this day and age. Anyone can have access to knowledge in this day and age because we have knowledge at our fingertips at all times. And we live in the age of information. But we have to remember that in general, scientists are in strict fields of studies and topics and situations and experiments and so on and so forth. So in the title, I say bits of science, which just means, I'm just going to be sharing, individual topics that all kind of go together and help paint a bigger picture. So it's you're basically getting little amounts of information, because I know in this day and age it's really hard for a lot of people to take in hours and hours of information, which I also do, but I'm just sharing little parts, and that's what I'm really hoping will help people be more interested in these types of things that I share. And what I understand about the knowledge that I do know, I believe it can, help us get closer to freedom if that's what we desire. Because the opposite of freedom is slavery, right? So the goal, the general goal of life, from what I've come to understand, is to rise out of darkness, out of internal darkness, out of ignorance and suffering, and then rising, healing ourselves and rising out of these lower states into higher states of consciousness and light, and essentially becoming a more free soul, a sovereign being. And the more free we individually become, the more free the world becomes, the more free our surrounding society becomes, okay? Because it's all about morality. And I'm not talking about religious morality. I'm not talking about institutionalized Christianity. I'm talking about the law of the universe that binds us to the consequences that we see as a result of our actions, because it's all about the understanding of our behavior, okay, of human behavior. So as a society becomes more moral, that society becomes more free. Now, what would be the opposite of that? Well, it would be the more a society becomes more immoral, then that society becomes more what? It becomes more enslaved. So the more each individual becomes more immoral, then this affects the society around the individual, which then that society takes on a moral decline and becomes more enslaved. And that's part of understanding the science of freedom. Now, what is freedom? I think it's a very misunderstood thing, just like morality and just like science. And I would say that freedom is not something that anybody in this whole world actually knows, especially in the modern era. But what I do know is that there are people out there, including myself, who do understand the science of freedom and know that if we take in the information of the science of freedom and we come to an understanding of it, and we process our understanding, we come to a logical conclusion and we understand morality, well then we start to express freedom outwardly. And once we do that individually, then it becomes a collective action. Because if more people do it, if more people come to this understanding of this science, then we will see positive change in the world. And the way that I understand freedom is it's a phenomenon that occurs through personal responsibility and moral action simultaneously in the aggregate of society, okay? So by taking personal responsibility and being moral, we are generating freedom. So freedom is about emancipation from slavery. It's about freeing ourselves from our lower self, and inwardly, and then also it's about living in the world without rulers who basically dictate our lives, our minds, individually or collectively, or both. So freedom is the result of a fully moral society that is aligned in natural law. Okay? And by natural law, it's the same thing that I said about morality. It's about understanding that there is a law that is not made by man, that is only discovered by man individually to understand human rights, to understand human behavior. And it's inherent. It's already here. It's fixed. It's like gravity is a fixed law in the universe. So is natural law. So as a society progresses towards freedom collectively, then that society raises in higher degrees of freedom. And as much as I would love to see, a full freedom, a full free world, I also know that, the basic reality of it is that most people are not going to awaken to this concept because of cowardice and laziness and calcification and, ultimately fear. Because they're just, set in their ways, they're comfortable, they're entertained, and, they just don't want to change because they're too lazy, and they simply really just don't care. And this leads to aggregate suffering, okay? And we have to understand that it is because we collectively, or mostly collectively, do not care. This is what builds and maintains a cage on the rest of the people who do care, okay? And it's not right, it's not correct. And I'm going to get into what I mean by that as I move through these episodes. But a lot of people think that caring is voting. And there's so much more to it than that. But I will guarantee you that that is 100% a fallacy. But for those who do care, this is who this message is really for. This message is for those who want to see less suffering in this world, who really truly want to make a positive difference and know that they are powerful and not powerless. And I think, really the truth is most people think that they're powerless, which means that, that's probably why most people don't care. And that's because it's all by a design. It's all by many programs that have been installed into our minds for thousands of years. And it's because, they don't want anyone like us to feel like we have any true power here on earth. Okay? And they, who I'm talking about, are, the elitists and the special interests, the banking cartels, there's the Rothschilds, the Fabian Society, BlackRock, the Rockefeller families, and basically anyone who gives orders that are carried out by violent order followers, those who enforce the top apex orders onto the lower people, okay? Which would be most of the people of the world. So it really all comes down to you. You are the one who has to make the change that you wish to see in this world. And it's not something that, we can't vote ourselves to freedom, okay? We have to understand that. And we have to understand that freedom isn't something that we have to wait for other people to uh, um, generate for us either. We have the right thing to do is move towards freedom. The wrong thing to do is allow ourselves to become more enslaved. Okay, so we have to care enough to rise up out of our darkness and move towards freedom, because it is the right way to go. And I'm going to go ahead and end it there. And if you guys have any more interest in what I'm talking about, you can go to cubbyhole.com, and there you will find the podcast that I have put together, and it has so much more information about the things that you're going to hear in these episodes. And there's 53 of them so far. So if this is something that you have found value in, please like, please share, please comment, because this is how we get this information out there. Please subscribe so that way you can see more of these episodes, and hit the notification bell. Also, if you have knowledge yourself and you want to share it with the world, please make videos. Please use your voice while you can to get it out there so people can hear where you're coming from, so you can actually make a difference. And I think this is one of the best ways that we can do this without any kind of violent revolution or anything like that. So yeah, well, thank you for making it this far, and definitely look out for the next episode where I'll be going into more topics. So stay tuned, and I will see you guys soon.